Hey folks, Steve here with another Dark Valley video. We're going to be looking at turn 20 today. I'm making this video just after the other day where I did the turn 19, and I am starting to get some comments here suggesting that I continue on with the current format of one turn per video, and we'll continue to do that. If other folks are interested in a change, still do speak up, and I'll keep a tally and figure out what's best. But if this is working for people, I don't necessarily want to rock the boat, and we'll keep it going. This being turn 20, we're still technically not even halfway through the full campaign game, because that would be turn 22. But we're working our way through it, and hopefully, you know, if I'm able to get on a good week, 2 videos a week, it'll be springtime. Maybe we'll be done with this one. Maybe over break. The holidays here coming up, I'll get some extra time away and I'll do some marathon sessions, but you know, this is working and we'll keep to it. I will say before we jump further into this video, if you are interested in particular for a certain game, I probably didn't phrase that really well, huh? If you're interested in a particular game to be covered on the channel, let me know. I've got so many ideas of what will happen or what will be covered next after the Dark Valley, and I've spoken to that a little bit in my closing 2019 video I did a couple weeks ago. On one hand, and I've got like 8 hands as I'm thinking through this, I think it'd be fun to do U.S. Civil War by GMT. I really enjoy that game. I already kind of know the rules, because I've played it a number of times, and it would be fun to do a solo game on camera, but other folks are doing that, so I don't know. And then maybe if I was doing that, I would also be doing another series in parallel for End of Empire as a Vassal game, because that game, just for me, would be easier to do on Vassal, and have a in-person game going and a Vassal game going, solitaire and recordings for. That might be interesting, but I also would like to do some World in Flames for you guys at some point, and I've got tons of other games on the shelf worth looking at and playing, and so it's really tough to figure out what comes next, right? But recently I've had some folks point out that they'd really like to see some Nevsky stuff, which I just got. I just did an unboxing video for that. There's like the first unboxing video that hit Board Game Geek, and Volko Runke, the designer, commented there. That was cool. So I could do some videos on that, and maybe I could even do videos on that in parallel to the Dark Valley. I've got to figure out how I want to approach that. The back of the Nevsky box says that it's like a 7 out of 9 for solitaire. I don't know if that's because it's just good to play solitaire like this is, or if there's a bot. I don't remember seeing a bot in the material, so I assume there's something in there. I don't know. I'll have to look. So point is, if you've got something in mind, you know, let me know. I've also wanted to do stuff for Next War, the Next War series. I've got all the Next War games on my shelf, and I'm going to be getting the reprint of Korea coming up, since Next War Korea 2nd edition has a lot of changes, and I'm just getting a brand new copy for that. Oh, so much, Dervel Creek, so much to play, guys. I really don't know how I can get it all on the table for you guys to see, but I'll do what I can. Okay, so turn 20 is another snow-winter turn. It'll be another turn that the Soviets are going to have initiative, and as usual, we're going to have some reinforcements, and this is going to be our reinforcement allotment for this turn. Come on, camera stand. There we go. So we're going to get, as the Axis, yet another Tiger-enabled Panzer division, a nice beefy guy, as you can see there. We'll project Zox, 6 defense, pretty good unit. We get a couple of piddly infantry divisions, not much to look at, and then I think those are Romanians? No, not Romanians, I'm sorry. Those are Hungarians, I think. I think they're Hungarians. I forget the colors off the top of my head, but I believe those are Hungarians. So we'll get a few more units there. That's cool. And then by comparison, the Soviets have kind of a different setup. They're going to get another Guard Cavalry, which is nice. We're going to get a tank corps We're also getting a regular tank corps, and this is one of those situations where I could just say he's the one being upgraded, put him in the pile that's out of play, and just put this guy straight on the map. I think is how I'm allowed to do that, according to Ted. But we also have these guard tank armies. Now, you can see they're very beefy. They're much like the infantry guard armies with 14 combat factors, Zocs, and they also have the high movement capability of a mobile panzer unit, or tank unit, I guess, for the Soviets. The one thing I will say about these units is that they are special in that they have mechanized infiltration movement just like the Axis panzer units do. So, they can ooze through Zocs, which most Soviet tank units cannot do. That's something that the Axis Panzer units can do all the time, but even the normal tank units cannot do that. But these guard tank units can do some of that stuff. So this will be another force improvement. But again, even next turn, like we discussed in the last video, there's a whole lot more upgrades to come in the next several turns. Reinforcements. So these are the reinforcements. The replacements will be what they are. Again, the Soviets are now going to be maxing out on their replacement schedule. So they're just getting tons of replacements, tons and tons of replacements. And before long, it will be an unsustainable situation for the Axis. At some point, I also need to think about pulling all these guys off the Volga, because at this point, I don't think that area is in danger, so I had set them back there in case the Axis got close, but I think that window is shutting, and I can just bring those guys back over the river and start having them reinforce the line. Once the momentum really starts to shift over, they'll be safe to do that. I could do it this turn, maybe. I'm not sure. Okay, so like we would do for other turns, I'm going to just go ahead and take care of the reinforcements, replacements, then airbase phase, the strategic movement, and when we come back from the cut, we will look at the chit recipe, which I'm pretty sure is the exact same one we had last time, if I remember right from the other day. So it won't be too much to discuss there, but we'll get situated. So we'll be back in a second. Real quick, I have to do a quick interjection here because I just finished doing all of the reinforcements. And I haven't done the Soviet replacements yet, but something to watch out for is that, we had those big guard tank armies come on, and these replacements, these conversions, have to take place if they can be. They have to occur. But what you have to watch out for is if you look at the recipe of what is converted to create the new unit, you might have some of those units on your front line in critical positions. And I just had to spend a couple of minutes looking through the line and trying to figure out, like, where can I afford to take off a tank corps? Where can I afford to tank off one of these guard mechanized corps, or vice versa, or whatever, because the recipe for those tank guard armies is, well, 1 mechanized corps and 2 tank corps, and one of them has to be a guard corps, right? And what I ended up doing is picking my guard units to be the guard mechanized corps and just taking tank brigades off. That might not have been the most optimal choice objectively for all cases, but I just had some units on the board that's like, I can't, if I move that unit there could be problems, and the Axis could counterpunch and there could be a gap in the line, and I just didn't want to take that risk. But I did put the 3 guard tank armies on the board, and I've got 2 up right here and 1 here. So the one here is going to come in and support where I had to take some units out. It's going to come in through here, and then 24 combat factors, or I'm sorry, 28 combat factors are sitting in that city right now, and they can go down here. I mean, heck, 28 combat factors out of 1 hex is killer. Those guard tank armies are going to start ripping through the Axis hardcore, and they're going to be part of this Orel push, I think. I think I'm going to leverage them to continue to pressure over here beyond the Axis' ability to adapt and cover that situation. And I can really start to see where the Soviets are going to start to really be able to make big gains here, because that concentrated firepower is just so critical, and it's going to punch big holes and especially because they're high movement units being mechanized, you can see where like deep battle, where the combat and then move is going to create these situations where we could create nice big, encirclements. And really, in terms of the game, like I think all it's going to take is like one decent encirclement somewhere of Axis units, and that's going to start the collapse, right? Because the Axis only has so many units on the board at any given time. If you collapse and isolate enough of them, the hole will be so big that the only way to try to fix their line is to pull way, way, way back. And they're going to have a hard time doing that anyway, especially because a lot of units have slow movement factors that you could really see some gnarly stuff start to occur for supply purposes. So we're going to have to watch out for that and see what happens there. So anyway, I'm going to finish with the replacements. The Soviets are going to get a bunch of replacements, so we'll take care of that. Okay, so we're here after the rest of our strategic movement and all of that. Air base is really constrained here. I mean, the Axis only has 3 air units left, and they're positioned as evenly as they really can be to support the critical areas, but it's going to be tough going here from here on out. When I rolled for Axis rail movement, I got a 1. So I could move 1 step, and I just moved 1 little guy here just to try to add something to that area around Orel that could be useful. But I don't think it'll make a whole lot of difference in the current situation. In terms of the Soviet replacements, I should say that I did end up using a lot of replacement points on flipping reduced armies. I finally, in the past turn, had managed to pull a few back out of enemy Zocs and adjacency enough that I could flip some back to full strength. And it's pretty cheap to do that, and in some cases you get a little extra combat power because the replacement's based on defense factors. So a reduced shock army replaces to full strength for 2 points, but their attack factor goes up by 3 points, so you're kind of getting a nice deal out of that. So there were some improvements there. Again, all goodness for the Soviets. And something I realized is that this should have been obvious, but for whatever reason it just occurred to me, that once we start taking some of these important places back, like Leningrad and eventually Kiev, the replacement rate for the Soviets will increase again because they're going to have those factory cities back. They'll be reduced, so they'll get 3 instead of 5 replacement points per turn, but still, as the Soviets make more and more progress, that overwhelming numbers will just keep increasing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out here. So yeah, we're ready to get into the actual action phase here, and we'll take a look at the recipe for the turn for action chits. So it is technically the same as last turn, but there is a slight difference here from last turn because of an Axis choice. So we get the move or combat for the Axis, and we get 1 Panzer activation. I have chosen, instead of falling into the 2nd Panzer pit, I have decided to go with the 1st Panzer. And my thinking is here, the 1st Panzer, I'm sorry, oh my gosh, not the 1st Panzer, that's not the one I want. 4th Panzer is the one I want. Why did I not grab the right chit? There we go. That's the one I want. I want 4th Panzer. Now, why do I want the 4th Panzer? So I kept picking the 2nd Panzer, which is fine, and has been useful. The only problem is, it hasn't been super useful, but what I want to do, I need to keep Orel secure, and I'm going to continue to do that, but I'm going to leverage the Axis move to help that, but I want a higher chance of activating the 1st again, because the 4th, gosh, guys, the 4th Panzer is in that old pocket near Moscow, and what I really want to do is just rearrange that whole area. I think I've managed to get the situation a little fixed in terms of danger, and I want to pull some units back. I want to get that rearranged, and shortening the line will allow me to get some of those units down around Orel in a more secure fashion than they are right now. So I need movement out of that pocket. I need to correct that, and I could do that with normal movement as well, but I I'm going to need the extra movement to get units further southeast. Rather than activating the 2nd Panzer units, or the 2nd Panzer HQ and the units around it, they're already in place. There's nowhere for them to go. I need to draw in more units. I need to drag them with the HQ down south and try to, figure that whole situation out. And this really is going to be the first true full-on pullback for the Axis in the whole game, right? They've been sort of advancing. They've sort of solidified. They retreated back to Rostov, but here they're really giving up ground from the direction of Moscow, and this is the retreat of the Axis at this point. But otherwise, yeah, we've got our 4th Panzer activation, and then logistics, Stavka, move, combat, Stavka, Zhukov, and deep battle. I did put 2 regular infantry army units in the Stavka Reserve. My plan there is to, if we manage to take Orel before the end of the turn, I will use Stavka to put units there and then move an attack out of Orel. It's sort of like a leapfrog kind of thing, I think, is how that might work. So I'll use Stavka, but it'll be very late in the turn probably if I do use it. And I actually put a few units there for once, so that's good. So okay, and the Soviets do have initiative this turn. They need to select which option they want. Now, as usual, my predisposition to choose move, I think I'm going to still do that. I'm going to probably pick move, because what I want to do is I've got to bring a few units from a few hexes behind the front line to the front line. I want to cycle out some units that are reduced as the Soviets so that they can be replenished and then rotated back in. And obviously, I need to get these guard tank armies into the fray, and they're going to be able to do that here and get adjacent to some units and be able to start the pummeling. So very important to get movement, get units in line, and then the rest of the activations will be the combats to hopefully bust open some holes in the line and get us going here. The other move that I need to think about making is, do I want to pull the Stavka HQ down a little bit? And I think I may do that with the move. So right now Zhukov is here, Stavka is here. I might want to pull down, like move Stavka down a bit and move Zhukov over a bit so we can be activating this whole chunky units here for activities. I think that's what we want to do. Because right now, Stavka being up here just isn't doing a whole lot for us. I mean, we're there's some activity, but the critical zone is now in the southeast over here by Orel. So I think I'm going to do that. So anyway, we'll put the Soviet move marker in the first position. We'll put the rest of our stuff in the cup. Now the Axis still has Manstein. I didn't show him, but they still have him. But if they use him, they're going to lose access to him for a while, so we're going to hold him in reserve. So yeah, I'm going to take care of that Soviet movement, and then we'll come back and we'll draw from the cup. Okay, movement is complete. You can see I've kind of squeaked everything up into the line. I decided to split my guard tank armies, so there's one here underneath Zhukov, there's one here. Just, we're going to push and see if we can't get Orel situated, if we can. But we'll see how that goes. Everything else, I tried to cycle out some units, like I said, but getting some units to where they really need to be is taking up more movement. So it is what it is. I'm going to do a quick double check here. Yep, okay. So we're going to go to the cup. We're going to see what comes out of the cup. And oh, that's too bad. I don't think we wanted this so soon. So we got Soviet deep battle. That's still okay because ultimately, this could help us. This could help us. This could work. This is okay. So deep battle. Just going to reference the rule book again to make sure I got it. So we're going to activate either Stavka or Zhukov, not both. And I did move both the HQs a bit to try to get better coverage. So, combat and then move. And just so you can kind of see the area of operations here. If we did Zhukov, it would be basically this set of units over here. If we did Stavka, it would instead be, kind of a cluster of units up here. And we would get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we actually could, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could try to push on Orel here if we chose Stavka, which might be what we want to try to do. So I think I'm going to choose Stavka for deep battle, and we've got the potential here to crack open some of the front here and push on the axis a little bit. So I'm going to take care of that. Remember, this is deep battle, so combat and then move. We're activating Stavka for this. This Stavka HQ for activation of units. We're going to see that Guard Tank Army either support an attack on that stack or support an attack on that stack with the full German core there. I'll have to see what the odds come out to be. But I've got a shock army there as well, but then I might want some of these units to be attacking that stack there, or Orel. I've got a number of options. I'll have to look at it. If for some reason I switch around and go with Zhukov, we'll talk to it when I come back. So, see ya in a second. Okay, well, I didn't make as much headway as I really wanted to. Our problem is that I rolled poorly and got no effect results. And when it comes time for the combats, combats didn't go well. Movement, not much that I could do. I will say I had a lucky firing of artillery, and I rolled a 6, which I needed to hit, and I reduced the Panzer division with Tigers in it right there underneath the motorized unit next to Orel. So we've weakened that unit, which is very good. I mean, any time that artillery can find Panzer units out in the open, it's worth firing, and in this case I got really lucky. So I guess that luck balances out the crappy die rolls, but I didn't lose any steps. I just got a bunch of no effects, so that's okay. But yeah, the deep battle just was not very good this turn, unfortunately. The one ended up being a 2-to-1 odd attack, and then I rolled a 4, so 2-to-1 on the Soviet roll is a no effect, and then I rolled a 2 on a 3-to-1. But I guess the good thing is I basically used up the air because the Axis chose to throw in, I as the Axis chose to throw in air support, which made those attacks basically be at such bad odds. But now that air is used up, so when we get our second attack chit, we'll hit them again, and we'll break through the wall, hopefully. So, go into the chit cup. We got logistics, which is probably the most inconvenient time for this to come up for anybody, because nothing's really happened. And I'm pretty sure everybody's in supply just fine, so we'll go ahead and, everybody's fine. So I will go ahead and pull another chit. And we get, there we go, combat Stavka Zhukov. Okay, well, we get to attack again. Now the only trouble is, when we're done, not including Stavka, all the other chits in the cup are Axis. So the Axis is going to get to have all their actions after this, not counting Stavka, which could come in handy somewhere if something goes really wrong. I don't see an immediate use for Stavka that's super useful. So hopefully this combat Stavka Zhukov will do what we need it to do and crack open some of that line a little bit better, but we just didn't get where we wanted to be with it. So, yeah, I'm going to take care of the combats now because it's all the units, I believe, within the range of the HQs. We have a much broader span of attacks that we can make, so it's going to take me a little bit longer to figure out how I want to divvy up the factors for combats, but we'll come back when that is complete. Okay, well, these attacks didn't go great either, but we did cause a BL1 over here, as well as over here, and I got lucky with the same artillery again. Basically, both those SS units, I guess they're SS units because of their black and white color, but these guys were destroyed, and that includes one of our very nice Tiger Panzer divisions. At least I think they're Tigers. Wiped out, which would have given us a hex next to Orel, but the problem was if I advanced after combat, we would have had, well, it just wasn't a safe advance after combat, we'll put it that way. Because I have 2 reduced units there now. And unfortunately, I ended up having to take a hit on that guard infantry army, so we couldn't quite do exactly what we wanted. I was trying to figure out the odds of us taking Orel with a direct frontal attack from 1 hex, and there's just no way I could do it. So we're putting the pressure on, but we couldn't quite break the line like we wanted to, unfortunately. But you know, we eliminated a unit that will not be easy for the Axis to get back, which is good. So the more we take out these units, the better off we are in the long haul. Again, those artillery getting to fire every time there's a combat activation is useful. We've been able to get hits off. I even got some down near Rostov. I didn't mention earlier, but there's been some step losses down there as well. Okay, well, we'll go to the Chit Cup now, and we'll see what we get. All of these are going to be Axis moves. And we got a move or a combat. Well, since it doesn't really matter, I think we'll use this as a movement, and we'll get everybody situated for maybe some counterattacks or something that makes sense to do. So we'll do movement. It's going to take me some time because the Axis hasn't gone at all yet, really, this turn. And they need to think through how they want to move out of that salient, flatten out the line, get some units rearranged into Orel, and then when we come back, we'll take a peek. Okay, so here is the situation now after the move. You can see that the Axis is really pulled all the way out here to shorten the line and to free up some units. We got some coverage in Orel. The line's kind of thin over here for both sides, really. We also pulled back behind the river for Rostov with a couple of 1-4s out here, just to slow down the Soviets, just to be a little bit of a problem so they can't make a direct attack against Rostov for a while. So hopefully that will work out well, and you know, now we're in a kind of position where the next time we do a move, we really ought to be able to kind of get guys shifted, and I really should have moved him more down like this, so that, you know, we can kind of, you know, if we thin out the line up here a little bit and thicken it down here, that's probably the right thing to do. But, you know, there's a lot of firepower no matter what across the line here for the Soviets up in this area. It's just they were matched by equal firepower on the Axis side. Now we need to just be making adjustments and reconfigure the line to allow for better attacks, I guess, is the idea. And I'll say, as I do all of this, you got to keep in mind, I have no idea if I'm making the counter-to-counter movement best moves, right? Is every unit exactly where it ought to be? Probably not, right? I'm trying to play this as best I can, but, you know, I have a lot of, you know, this is my first real playthrough, so I'm probably not playing optimally, but again, I'm pulled back here a little bit, just try to shorten our line a little bit, and I've got to start thinking, when do I start to pull back here and just pull. If Orel is going to truly continue to be in danger, should I be pulling back? But I'm going to wait a little bit longer, because if I can hold through the rest of this winter, well, now next turn it'll be mud, so spring will come. I have some last opportunities to try to crack the Soviets a little bit and just delay them. But I think after this summer, it's going to be a controlled retreat for the Axis. I think that's what they got to do. It might be a little dicey, me keeping this formation as long as I'm taking it. I get nothing as the Axis for holding on to 35 victory points for as long as possible now. It's past that point. I just have to keep the Soviets from drilling me down, but it might be okay to give up 1 or 2 victory cities if it means I can hold the rest for longer, right? So that's what I need to think about. I'm going to pull from the cup. There's only 2 more chits left, and the Soviets have an opportunity here to do Stavka, and I think just knowing that it's going to be Axis combats and moves now, I think now is the time to do it. So we're going to use Stavka here. They're going to automatically get enough steps out of Stavka Reserve a place for 2 army units. They're both going to go into Tula, and they're both going to move out of there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I didn't get them quite where I wanted them to be. And let's see. We'll put him here. Whoops, he should be full strength. There. Okay. Alright, so we're going to pull now the rest of the chits. I'm going to pull one after the other to determine order. So first we'll have the Axis combat, and then we'll have our 4th Panzer activation. So that allows us to do some combats, see how those combats shake out, and then we'll be able to adjust some of our units in range of the 4th Panzer HQ, which is right here. So I'm going to take care of that, and then when we come back, really that's the end of the turn. So when I take those actions, we'll have the attrition phase, and the depot movement. Technically, I did some backwards depot movement just because if a Soviet unit were to enter there, they'd sort of teleport back, basically, the way I had it set up. So I just did that anyway. So yeah, and the attrition segment will have no effect. So really what we'll do, I'll take care of these 2 activations, one after the other, combats, and then I'll do the 4th Panzer move. I might put a cut in if a combat goes really wacky and changes something important, and then we'll do a quick closeout for the turn, and that'll be turn 20. So we'll be right back. Okay, maybe it was just bad planning, I don't know. When it came to combats, I looked along the line. I didn't see anything worth trying. I just don't have the combat factors to get 3-to-1 odds, and the 2-to-1 odds were just a little too dicey right now. So no combats. I didn't see anything worth trying for, unfortunately. When it came to the 4th Panzer activation, I just did some I moved like 1 or 2 units. It wasn't much. So it was like, basically 30 seconds of gameplay here total. I mean, just looking around the map, there are a couple of places, again, just very dicey. I mean, you want at least 3-to-1 odds usually, and we can't get the ratios that we need. Now, I don't see anything that would require a Manstein use yet. I think I'm going to keep Manstein in reserve for when there's a true breakout. Because if I use Manstein now, I don't think I get him back until next year. Hold on, let's take a look here, since the video is going to be towards its end here. Okay, alright, if we use Manstein now, which I'm not sure we have a good reason to, we're going to place him on the space 2 turns later on the turn record check. So, I think it would be more valuable to use Manstein when there's a breakout and use it to correct. And then we can use them in the summer for some additional oomph and maybe some kind of attack. So I think it's a little early to use Manstein yet. I think we've sort of corrected our situation, but Orel is under major threat, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Really need to start thinking about pulling back in the East. I think that's probably what is going to need to happen here, but we'll see. Okay, well that is the end really of turn 20. We're still sitting at 35 victory points. The Soviets are now becoming the scary faction on the board with their big nasty units, and next turn we are going to see even more join the board, and I hope that I'm not going to be stuck in some goofy situations where I don't have good unit placement and all those new converted units are going to leave my line with big holes in it. We'll have to see. I'm not sure how you can account for that. I know we had some challenges with some of that stuff in the Dark Sands way back, where units would be withdrawn and come back, and if they were in a critical position. Here it's these conversions, are these conversions going to really screw us up? But, okay, that is the end of turn 20. Next video will be turn 21. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to see more content like this, hit subscribe. And until the next one, take care, guys, and keep on gaming.